on the 28th of July 2020, and if you'll cast your mind back all the way back to the beginning of June, you'll remember that I was talking to today's
websites. Go post it on this site, reach out to friends, go to coffee shops, put up flyers, just do it, take action there.
You're listening to the Corbett Report.
Welcome, friends. James Corbett here at CorbettReport.com in a conversation that is being recorded on the 28th of July 2020. And if you'll cast your mind back all the way back to the beginning of June, you'll remember that I was talking to today's guest, Derek Brose of The Conscious Resistance at theconsciousresistance.com about the Expose Bill Gates Global Day of Action. And if you don't remember that, I'll link that up in the show notes just in case you want to refresh yourself about that event. Well, it was successful, in case you didn't notice, and as a result, it's going to happen again, and again, and again, and again, and as many times as you out there want to make it happen. So to join us to talk about this idea, we're going to talk to, once again, Derek Brose of The Conscious Resistance. Derek, thanks for coming on once again.
Yeah, thank you, James, for having me back on to talk about this.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. First of all, for people who may have not noticed, the first Expose Bill Gates Global Day of Action was a huge success, and it did make waves. In fact, many of the people who didn't even see our conversation may have heard about that through other social media and other places. Talk a little bit about the success that event had.
Yeah, I was not sure what to expect. We did the interview last time, and various other independent media were sort of promoting it, Jason Burmis and a few others, but it didn't have quite the amount of support going into it that I was hoping for, as far as just more bigger channels and just people speaking about it. But on the actual day, it took off on its own, and that was Saturday, June 13th, and it was trending throughout the day on Twitter. I don't know what the final number was, but I know we had well over 150,000 tweets from different parts of the world. We had people translating the material into French, Italian, there was Farsi at one point, Spanish, of course, and just so that was really cool to see. And then we did have some coverage from RT and I think a few other websites that at least reprinted what they wrote, and it acknowledged, the call to action. And of course, there was the labeling of conspiracy theorists and that sort of thing. But overall, it did get out there, and to the point where some people felt the need to try to hijack it and try to turn it into like, expose Bill Gates for being such a great philanthropist or whatever. But the point is, it was starting conversation, which is what we set out to do. The whole reason we had this original talk about it was because you have the awesome documentary series that's out. I've got my article, my 3-part series investigation. There's other people who've dug into who Gates is about. And of course, now he's reemerged from his parents' basement, and he's out in the last couple of days calling for more lockdowns and no school till 2021 and multiple doses of vaccines for everybody, and dismissing all these crazy conspiracy theories and everything. And so it felt like we should try to jump back into some of that success, because I did have people reach out after the fact who said, hey, I didn't even know this was going on. Is there a plan to do another one? I got enough of those emails that it felt like, yeah, maybe we should do something, and enough time has passed. We're almost 2 months since the last one, so it'll be, I think, the perfect time. And so we had good success the first time getting it trending. We had, I guess you could say, various minor right-wing and left-wing celebrities kind of getting in and promoting it as well, and posting it. And hopefully we can get more people involved this time.
Absolutely right. It's a big tent, and this is a decentralized, leaderless resistance movement. There's no one to look to for orders of what to do or what not to do. The meat and potatoes of what is going to happen is up to the people out there. And if nothing happens, if no one wants to do anything, well, that could happen too. But it really is up to everyone out there as to what they want to do or don't want to do with this idea. I say run with it. And if your question is, should I ... the answer is yes, you should. And if the question is there anyone out there who's going to ... the answer is no, there isn't, but you are now in charge of it. I officially give you the seal, the sheriff badge, to be the head chief, whatever, disseminator in whatever way you want with this information. So let's talk about some of the resources that people can use if they do want to spread information and help to expose Bill Gates. You mentioned your 3 articles. Obviously, I'll link to that. And, of course, there's the Who is Bill Gates documentary that I did. But I notice on your site you have a page dedicated to this day of action. It's called theconsciousresistance.com/Bill Gates. Expose Bill Gates Monthly Day of Action, How to Get Involved. And it's just some basic information about this. At the bottom, you have a little 4-point bullet list of how to get involved. let's go through some of these ideas that you have of what people can do with this this hashtag and how they can run with it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to add to what you just said, James, that it's absolutely a decentralized thing. And as you have, surely I get the emails of, hey, actually, I got one today. Is there anybody in this part of town that's organizing Expose Bill Gates Day? And I send them back, yeah, you are. We haven't heard from anybody, so I guess you're going to be the one to put it together. Here's some websites. Go post it on this site. Reach out to friends. Go to coffee shops. Put up flyers. Just do it. Take action there. But yeah, I tried to make it as simple, give people the basic information about what we're about. They can go watch your documentary. They can read my articles. There's plenty of other information now coming out about Bill Gates, Bill Gates and Epstein and all this whole thing that we were trying to expose, as well as the larger agenda that Gates represents. And so for me, the first thing is to host an event. I'm calling for people to host events publicly, whether that means going out into the real world, protesting, documentary screenings, banner drops, just handing out flyers. That's what I did in Houston in June. We had a small group of people, I think 7 to 10 people, and we just went to a public park where there was a lot of people out and passed out flyers and talked to them. And we actually found a lot of people who were receptive to the issue, including somebody who was a Black Lives Matter protester who is very much aware of Bill Gates' agenda. So that was interesting. So yeah, calling for people to get out to the streets in some way. And if that's not something you're able to do or interested in, really focusing, of course, social media. We have the hashtag Expose Bill Gates. I've had somebody also recommend, and I threw this in there, that we shouldn't forget about Melinda Gates and her role, because after all, it is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And there's a really awesome book. I'm trying to reach out to the author. It's called Africa, and she's an African woman who has wrote about this and wrote about Melinda Gates' role in the African agenda with vaccines. And you've covered this, of course. So, we're using those hashtags: expose Bill Gates, expose Melinda Gates, expose the predator class, expose, technocracy. You can come up with your own as well. Obviously, we're focusing on that main one, but using the power of social media throughout that day. Maybe you schedule a couple of post one of James's parts of the documentary, the 4 parts, throughout the day. Post my 3 articles, post some other videos, things like that. Send them in personal messages, email them to people. Those things go a lot longer of a way, I think, than just posting sometimes into the abyss of social media. If you reach out to a friend and say, hey, today's an important day to me. It's this Expose Bill Gates thing. Here's a couple articles I'd like you to read. Here's a short video, or here's a documentary. Let's watch this together. Hey, can we get together? And, there's different ways to do this. And so I was just trying to put some basic starting ideas for people who are looking for that.
Absolutely. And you cut out a little bit as you were saying the title of that book. It's Target Africa, Ideological Neocolonialism of the 21st Century. I am reading that book at this exact moment, too. So there you go. Definitely something to check out. I'll throw that link in the show notes. And I think you're right. Again, hey, if you're on social media, if that's what you do, then go do it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. But as you say, reaching out to people you actually know, either physically or through email or whatever, to directly contact them and tell them about this can be very much more effective than just sort of broadly giving it out into the social media sphere, which we know is censored and controlled anyway. And of course, the trending Twitter hashtag was squashed on Bill Gates, the original Bill Gates, the Global Day of Action. So don't expect that Twitter and companies like this are going to help us promote this type of idea, because of course they're not. But I very much like the idea of holding documentary screenings, because then, of course, you get people together in a room, they can talk and debate and be exposed to this information, they can exchange contact information and stay in touch, but they may be spreading this deadly killer virus if they do that, so of course it could adhere to all social distancing norms and conventions, and don't upset anyone. Yeah, well, anyway, as I say, do it however you want. Be in there. Yeah, well, do it however you want.
I want to add to that, James. Yeah, I want to add real quick, James, sorry, that on the day of the action, too, you mentioned Twitter while you were talking about Twitter. I actually woke up that morning and for one reason, no explanation, my Twitter account that I don't even use that often was blocked out for the entire day of Expose Bill Gates. And, clearly, I think I got one tweet out using the hashtag, and then for the rest of the day until magically the next morning, it's like, oh, your account has been, let back in. You're back in the playground or whatever. But, yeah, so we definitely can't rely on those platforms.
Definitely not. I think that is painfully obvious to everyone at this moment. I also want to make sure that people understand you also have some examples of flyers that people can print out that they can hand out that are there on that page. Of course, make your own, whatever. Again, this is spontaneous, it's decentralized, everyone's their own leader, but there are some example flyers there for download on your page as well. I'll throw in a link to a couple of videos that you've done on this recently, a more in-depth video where you go through that latest Bill Gates interview where, oh yeah, there are severe adverse reactions that are happening to the vaccine trials, and the people who are getting the high doses, it's almost every single person is having side effects. But, oh, don't worry, the FDA is the gold standard of regulatory agencies, and they're going to look into it, says Bill Gates, as he is actually somewhat pressed on the issue of vaccines. And aren't you invested in the companies that are going to be making money from this? Which he completely sidesteps. Anyway, you did a great breakdown of that, so I'll direct people to that. Also, you have a little 2-minute video that you can, everyone out there can help to spread around for the sort of low attention span normies in the audience who might need something a little bit more to the point. You have a little 2-minute trailer essentially for this Global Day of Action. We'll direct people to that. All of these links will be in the show notes. But as I say, this is leaderless. Do what you want, but here's some suggestions. And I think that's, again, we have to keep pressing this because it's not like this is over, and it's not like Bill Gates is going away. And yes, he is not the ringleader of all ringleaders, but he is the public face of this agenda. And the mainstream keeps turning back to Bill Gates. And what does Bill Gates think about this? And Gates, tell us more about these vaccines we're all going to have to take. So it is important to expose Bill Gates. Derek, any final thoughts on this before we leave people?
So just the final things I would say, of course, thanks, James, for continuing to spread this and for your work on this. It is every second Saturday beginning August 8th until the end of the new normal, as they're putting it, because many of us know new normal is now like new normal order, or the great that these language, the words they're putting out there, we understand the larger meaning of them. And the other thing, I did put 2 suggestions out there that I'll just wrap up with. And one is really, again, emphasizing start your event. Go out there and put an event together. This
1 minute.
To favorite content creator, YouTuber, journalist, etc., to get involved in this in some way. Especially, let's hit across the spectrum. I really am trying to encourage this to be as nonpartisan as possible. And I know that there are people who are maybe more left-leaning who understand Bill Gates's, corporate malfeasance, and, the people maybe who are more right-leaning who are concerned about population control or whatever it may be. The point is, tweet at, email, comment to whatever your favorite content creator and ask them to use the hashtag #ExposeBillGates. Encourage them to make a short video about it and to add their voice to the choir on this. So thank you, James.
All right. Thank you, Derek, for the work that you're doing and for keeping this going. I think it is important work. So once again, we'll direct people to your website generally, theconsciousresistance.com, and all of the things we've talked about today. Derek, keep doing what you do and keep us informed about what's happening over on your side of the planet.
All right. Thank you, James.